Hello, this is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com, and today we might be finishing the Daniel Defense build from Brownells. So if you've been following along in the series, we are currently building out an AR-15 with a lot of really nice custom parts and components. And we recently did the upper receiver, showing you the rail we switched it out for, the muzzle brake that we used, the upper as a whole being a Daniel Defense upper, and how you're able to get it for a really amazing price. And now we're going to speak about the lower. Originally, I had the KE arms lower as they lower for the setup. But as I mentioned when I did the video on the KE arms lower, is that for me, the length of pull is a little bit too long, so it's a little bit uncomfortable. And I also do want to be able to have the option of having that closer in, depending on the optic that I'm going to decide to stick with when it comes to this build. So what I did is I reached out to Axis Manufacturing. I do have a rifle from them, and I made a dedicated video of their rifles as well. They make really, really amazing billet parts for a crazy low price. And I mentioned this in their video as well. If you want something like that, I'd recommend you get it, because there's no way they're able to compete at the price points that they have currently on the market. They're really low. So a billet part is what is taking an entire piece of metal and cutting away everything you don't want. They're CNC machining it. So it comes out to be really nice, versus what a lot of companies do right now is either like a forging process or a casting process, which means that it will work perfectly fine, but you won't be able to get the same level of quality like you will for a billet part. So what we're going to do is, since we're having a lot of really nice high-end parts over here and we're still getting them at amazing prices, what I wanted to do is make sure that the internals of what this lower receiver is going to have is going to match with what that is. So there's a company called Defense Depot that they reached out to me, and they actually reached out to me when I made a video talking about how easy it is to lose the detent in the forward takedown pin. And they said, we have a solution to be able to install that much easier, as well as a whole lower parts, like accessories, they're able to use for the lower receiver. So we're going to look at it. I'll explain to you why it's actually incredible what they have to offer, and maybe see if that's something you'd want to be able to get for your build. So let's talk about some of the parts we're going to use for this build. So the first thing we're going to talk about is obviously the lower receiver. I'm not going to go too heavily into this, just because we did make a dedicated video on this lower receiver before, and just the rifle in general. But this is the one from Axis Manufacturing. Really, really, really nicely made. Now, what you might see over here that looks a bit odd is this piece. Now, again, I made a video on this part as well. This is going to be the quick detach system that we had from Stern Defense. So it makes it able to have a quick detach system for your buttstock. So for the buttstock itself, I got my buffer tube and internals for the buffer from Axis Manufacturing, as well as this buttstock. So this is going to be for the lower receiver, but you can see how it makes a quick system where you just slide it in and you connect it, and then once the upper is there, it will be able to work as a quick detach system, which I think is really cool. I did have this on my other, which is like my shorter barreled rifle. However, what I noticed is that the barrel length of that actually fit into one of my bags perfectly, and a full length rifle won't. So this would be more beneficial to me for transport if I would use it on this setup. So that's what we have in regards to those components. For the pistol grip, I'm using one of my personal favorites, is the BCM Gunfighter. For this particular low receiver, I believe this is the Mod 2 that works best just for this one in particular. It does have a few different like grip modules depending on the size that you want to be able to go with. So that's what I'm going to go with over there, as well as also the safety selector that comes from Axis Manufacturing as well. That's going to be all a part of the lower receiver. Now, for the parts that are more intense, I found an amazing deal on the single stage precision trigger from Geisley. This is my personal favorite AR-15 trigger. We'll discuss that part in a second. And it comes with all the things that you need. And it really, in my opinion, if you're able to afford like a high-end trigger, this would always be the one I recommend. I think it works incredibly, incredibly well. And it's my go-to on my primary rifles. So now let's talk about the Defense Depot parts, which is really the highlight of everything we're doing today. So I'm going to pull out the parts that they sent me out over here. And what these are titanium made parts. Now, titanium, I believe, is like 45% lighter than steel, which is most commonly used for like parts. Now, the reason why companies don't really make these in titanium is because, generally speaking, the parts that you have will work fine. If you're looking to really upgrade though, like if you really want to make your rifle as lightweight as possible and really have a very different experience with it, then this would obviously be, it's very weird because it doesn't feel like anything you'd really think of before. So I have standard parts over here. This is from another company I have. This is kind of like just the standard mil-spec parts. And I'm going to try to compare. So this is one, as an example, this is the bolt catch, right? So this is the one that's like a standard mil-spec one, and this is the one that they have, right? So you can already see like the shape designs, just because also since this is CNC machined, which means this is the billet version of a parts kit of parts. So meaning just like this lower receiver is made of billet, meaning it's cut and made out of one piece of metal. This is done the same way, and it's out of titanium. So it's really light, and it might not seem like it makes a difference, but this you could noticeably feel an actual weight difference between the two. Besides for that, it's also Cerakoted as opposed to, I believe, maybe just an anodizing that would be done on these. And you can see like just this is coming straight out of the box from one of the companies I purchased it from. And you can see a lot of wear just based on that. And this one is fully Cerakoted, so just the performance and everything is going to be much slicker and work a lot nicer. And you can just see the attention to detail, even the markings, the actual serrations on the front, that's all CNC machine. So this is the one that's not, this is the one that is, but you can see that this is done from a CNC machine. It's all squared off and it feels really, really nice and light. So you could also tell, so that's going to be for these parts. You could tell also this is the magazine release. Same concept, feels really, really oddly light. And it has that little cut over there to make it even lighter. This is all CNC machine from that factory, and you can see really, again, the attention to detail and everything done. Now, again, if it doesn't seem that like that's so amazing to you, right, is that, again, this is a standard mill spec, this is theirs, right? If that doesn't seem amazing to you, it's really important to understand the process of CNC machining, is that they're having a machine that's individually cutting each individual circle to make it what it is. So they're actually like a tiny family-run company, they're like a small company, and they're making all these parts in-house. So fully American made in American stores, and it's all like machined here in the United States, which is amazing. Now here's the part that's actually very intriguing to me. What this part is what like this whole conversation started out from. So this piece over here, you could tell, is what the front takedown pin of the AR-15. Now there's one very particular part that you may not notice here that's going to be what makes a huge difference for installation. So right over here, there is that indentation that the pin that's going to hold it, the detent that's going to go into place, is able to fit into there, and then it has a ramp that ramps up into the actual area that it's going to lock into. So when it comes to installation, this should be significantly easier to be able to do because you won't have the risk of that detent flying everywhere just because it's being caught initially from the beginning, from all the way up front. And then from there, it ramps into the actual recess area of where it's going to stay. And because of that, that's what makes it be able to go back and forth very smoothly. So you see there's the hole over there and the hole over there. That's going to be for regular detent use. But for the actual installation, that little ramp design should make it very, very easy for installation and make the process much nicer. So because of YouTube guidelines, I'm obviously not able to show the full extent of installation. I'm going to install all these parts for you guys, and then we're going to get back and look how everything fits, the fit and finish, and the overall design of how everything looks. So again, I can't go into too much detail since we're on YouTube and I don't want to get canceled, but I want to show you one of the additional features here that comes from Access Manufacturing that's amazing. This portion right over here, right, is going to be where the bolt catch goes. So you put in that little plunger, and then you put in this piece, right, which is the actual bolt catch itself. And usually for most people, this is the most stressful time about installing parts on an AR-15, because this entire portion usually gets really damaged because you need a hammer and a pin to be able to get it in place. What Access Manufacturing did is from the factory, you actually get this pin right over here that's threaded. So this threaded pin goes through. So instead of it being a hammer tap pin that's also not able to be pretty much removed unless without damaging more to your firearm, you're able to actually just have that pin in, insert it into the gun, and then once you insert it over there, it's actually being threaded, so it's just like a regular screw. This is really what a lot of more companies should be doing when it comes to design, because it makes the whole process a lot easier and it makes sure that the gun doesn't get damaged. That's just so cool. That's it. So I'm going to try my best to get this on camera. It's a little bit difficult to work around the camera, but this is the part I'm actually very excited about. So right over here, this is the front of the lower receiver. That's going to be where the detent, which is the main source of PTSD for anyone who's built a rifle, is going to go into. So there's the spring, so it has spring tension, pushing against this tiny, unfocusable little pin that if this gets launched, it's pretty much gone forever. So we'll look over here, right? We'll see this portion over here, and you can see how this portion has, wait, let's try to keep that focused. That portion has that little area that you're able to put it into. So what I noticed the design is, you can literally have it standing just like that, and it fits into that recess really well. Try to keep that going. And then you just push it against the pressure of that spring, and it feeds right in. So I'm gonna try to rearrange the camera and see how well we can make it, like, catch that. So here we are with the completed build, And in all honesty, this really, without question, has been the easiest build I've ever been able to put together, mainly because of this part right over here. So as I mentioned before, what this part does over here is that there's a little ramp that makes it much easier for the pin to be able to be installed. So being able to have that literally made it take seconds. The magazine release is actually also really cool because I noticed it does protrude a little bit more. So you're able to get a much more guaranteed release of the magazine when you push it in, which is a feature I didn't realize was there, which is actually nice. Now, this safety selector is a kind of standard mil-spec safety selector, and in comparison to the other parts, you notice very quickly how it doesn't have the same coating and just is not made as well as the other components. So it just comes to show the quality of the other parts. This also really looks really nice, that little recess inside the other portion of the magazine release. I really like that. The guide lead trigger went in really, really nicely. It's like a beautiful, 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 nice trigger. Safety selector works great. The grip went in perfectly. I had to readjust the stern defense RADAB, which is the quick detach system. I'm noticing that I'm going to reach out to the company to make sure that it's not an issue on my part. When there isn't an upper attached to the lower receiver, I don't think this is supposed to be opened and closed because what I noticed is that this buffer system, this buffer meaning the buffer that makes that little gap connect, because right now the actual buffer springs and buffer tube is over here, and then the lower receiver is over here. So to fill out that gap, they have this piece that makes up that distance. Now, when there isn't a upper attached, there's nothing that this is able to whack up against except the little spring that holds everything in place, that little piece right over there. So when that happens, it seems like it's indenting the plastic, which is not ideal. So clearly it seems like that's not supposed to be the way it works. So unless I'm doing something wrong, I feel like there has to be an upper attached to this lower when you're using the system, which is something I realize right now. So just to sum up, these parts I think fit really, really nicely. And to recap in regards to what to expect with these parts is these are premium parts. If you're looking to build a standard AR-15, I wouldn't recommend going this route because they're very high end. They're made by a factory here in the United States. The machining process is very complex. And with being able to do that and being able to manufacture such a high quality part, that also comes association with cost. Now, I think it's worth it if you're looking to really build a very high end rifle. So if you're looking to build a high end rifle, then I would obviously recommend it. If you're looking to build a standard mil-spec AR-15, then there isn't really value to it because you could put that money towards other parts of the rifle. But again, primarily focusing on premium. If you're looking for premium, this would be the parts I would recommend just because it's very, very nicely machined. All these individual components fit and feel so nice and lightweight in comparison to their counterparts that it really makes it for a very unique experience and to make the rifle feel lighter. If you're also looking to build a lightweight rifle, the only way to do it is to save on the small things that will lead up to the overall weight being reduced. So that would again be where the value of these parts are. If you have any questions on this, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. This is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com. Thank you for watching.